The personal connection.
The personal connection.
The personal connection.
The Personal Connection Podcast, the show where we explore the importance of the personal connection and how this translates into business. Discussing the topic with leading professionals to help you unlock the reach your company can have. The Personal Connection Podcast, brought to you by Emotive. One chance to interrupt, make it count. Imagery that instantly connects. So back with the Personal Connection, and today I'm with a good friend of mine, David Whitehouse, who's the founder and director of InLife Digital Marketing Agency. And of course, design is all around us, everything we see, but it's how that interacts and the way that you bring the interaction from the digital realm into people that makes a difference. And that can be the difference between success and failure with an online experience. And I know Dave's really, really into this stuff, so this chat could lead us anywhere, but I think we want to really dive in and understand why it's important to consider the personal connection and the people that are actually using the websites and browsing the leaflets that you're designing when you're bringing everything together. So Dave, mate, welcome to the Personal Connection, and let's see where this leads us.
Thank you, and thanks for inviting me on, Stuart. So as you say, human-computer action is a passion of mine. It's something I specialised in at uni, and it's something I absolutely love. Also the user experience. And it's the one thing I like looking at when our guys are designing and developing websites or mobile apps. It's where I like to get involved, do the testing, see if you can cut down clicks, cut down areas, make things simpler. And it's great seeing things coming out all the time for inspiration. We might be using a new mobile app and see something cool there and think, wow, that's a really good idea and intuitive. And it is all about being intuitive at the end of the day. I think that's, if you were to summarize human-computer action, that would be the one word.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to keep it as simple as possible, haven't you? That's the point. And you mentioned in there about like the different clicks and everything and the different processes. And as a designer, you can get stuck in a bubble and sort of think people will interact this way because I want them to. But it doesn't always go that way. So I love the fact that you're diving in and looking at what the guys are doing and seeing if there's the way you can do it better and a way you can bring a better experience.
Yeah, I think that you nailed it on the head there. It's just making it simple. I mean, it was one of my favourite quotes by Albert Einstein was, "In any intelligent fool can make things more complex, but it takes a touch of genius to move in the opposite direction." And it is sometimes really hard to look at things and say, well, how can I make that easier for the user, or what can I do there to make it flow? Because if what we do in particular with mobile apps and web design, you want to send people on a user journey. So it's not just a user journey of what you want. I want them to buy, so I'm going to force this big buy button and this pop up in front of them straight away because that annoys them. Yep. You've got to combine your goals of a user journey with the user's goals of a user journey. So they're going on a nice flow through the website or through the app and finding what they want. That's the answer I want. Right, okay, I'm ready to order now. But at the same time, you are getting your goals out of it and making it as simple as possible to direct them through, because there is that subliminal moment where you find something and you've probably done it yourself on a website or an app and you think, where am I? What do I do now? And it's almost like a frustration, a punch in the frustration gut, and it gives that instant negative effect of against the brand, against the company. That it's sort of, almost so slight it's subliminal, but that can have a negative effect. And with the web, they say you should design for the attention span of a 10-year-old, and that is the goal. Because if they get bored, if they can't find what they're looking for, go on to the next one.
Yeah,
you've lost them.
Totally, mate. I mean, we're surrounded by more and more stuff all the time, and our attention span that we give to anything is getting less and less as a species. It's just the way that we're becoming. So it's that age-old thing that you used to have. Was it 7 touch points to buy and all these sort of stats and figures? But now it's more important than ever to make sure every single interaction is perfect, because otherwise people will just walk out the door. Whether it's waiting for a website to load or, as you said, whether you're looking for something. If you end up in a negative experience, that's it. You've lost that client.
Yeah, that's it. And the first most difficult part is when everybody comes to us with a mobile app idea, I say you could have the best app idea in the world, but unless you're doing the marketing to get people to visit it, it's not going to work. And it's that once you've got that initial step of getting people in the door, then this is where we step in. You've really got to keep them flowing, and adding little elements in there as well. So not it's not like a one-time use app.
Yeah.
Alton Towers is a prime example of an app I found that was great, but only useful for one-time use. So went to the park, downloaded the Alton Towers app, and got a map. It shows you the queue times as you're going around, but that was it.
Right.
Once you've left the park, there was no reason to keep that app on your phone. And there was so much more they could have done. They could have had pop-up notifications. They could have had new events notifications coming out to people with vouchers or offer codes, latest news. You could have been part of the Alton Towers experience, or just a little game on there, or some sort of augmented reality around the park, or that you can take home with you.
Yeah.
There was so much more they could have done that would make you want to keep that app on your phone, which helped, it was useful for you. You could have a little play with it, but then also they could then use it for marketing with a pop-up notification of, our Halloween events coming out, or here's a voucher code just for having our app, or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's thinking about, it's the start, getting them in the door, the human computer interaction, making it simple, and the last but not least, making sure people come back and stick around in particular areas.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, as you say, with apps there, that's really key, because they are so useful if you use them correctly. And I haven't got the actual stat in front of me; it's not my field. But when it comes to pop-up notifications, the amount of people who open them compared with opening an email or clicking on any sort of advert is insane. So why not utilize that trusted person that you've already got? They trust you because they've downloaded your app, so you're already in their world. So use that, but make them feel special, because if you don't make them feel special, they'll just see it as marketing BS, won't they? And
that's it, yeah. And it's finding that balance as well, because we did one which was like a little product designer where somebody could build up a different elements of the product to make it look like what they wanted. And I was speaking to the client, and they were talking about using pop-ups, and they get really carried away. And I was talking to them, and I had to kind of explain, look, if you're going to send somebody pop-ups even once a day, they're going to get annoyed and they're going to delete that app. You've got to keep pop-ups relevant, and you've got to keep them useful for the client. You can't just think, well, this is a great new tool of marketing, I'm going to spam it out, because that will have the opposite effect, and they will delete the app as well.
I think that's really key. And I guess that's where your experience as marketing agency, you can come in and actually give that guidance as well. It's not just a case of putting the app together, it's trying to instruct people how they can best use it as well afterwards, once it's deployed and out in the world.
Yeah, I think the biggest key element in anything in human computer interaction is you've got to take a step out your own body and into the feet and the mind of your client. And sometimes that's a difficult thing to do. And you've got to look at it from their perspective. Would it annoy me? And as a business owner, you think, yeah, I want to get all this information in front of them straight away. I'm going to fire this at them, and they're going to love it. But then, if you take a step into their shoes and think of it coming from another kind of company, would you get annoyed? Would you enjoy it? Would you follow through that, or would you do it yourself?
Yeah, so put yourself back in their shoes, sort of thing, and make sure it's going to be an enjoyable experience. That's the point, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah, and that differs between age, gender, different types of characteristics, what kind of person they are, whether they're more visual, whether they're more mathematical. It differs. So you've got to find, there's a fine line in between all that which matches everybody, and outside of that is where you can dip into your target audience.
Yeah, I guess that's a really interesting point, because the constant thing that I always say and always hear is, if you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one. Yeah. So how do you fine tune that when it comes to commissioning an app and bringing that together? Is it literally a case of just having to really niche down like crazy as to who your targets are, or was it more an experience?
Yeah, like I say, it's that fine balance really. There's the standard elements which everybody comes to expect. So, the reference I always use, it's if you can make anything like a door handle, which sounds the most boring, mundane thing in the world, and think, why would my app want to be like a door handle? But it's something you use every day without thinking about it. You walk up, it's the perfect height. Just no matter how tall you are, how short you are, just the right height for kids when they're old enough to reach it. It's something you don't think about, perfectly angled for your wrist. Every day that works. And it's that mundane, you don't think about it, you just do it. And that's where you've got to find that line, is somebody's just got to be able to do it without thinking about it. And then that comes into the balance of what we've become used to over the years. So that, this is sort of the realms of relativity of what we now see as standard practice, but probably never was. So things just like a little house, if you see that, you'd think, no, that means home. And most people know that means home. But at some point, that was a house was first used to do that. And probably the first person to see that didn't know that's what it was going to do.
Yep.
But we've come now to expect that. And for example, on the web, when designing for the web, you'll generally see the logo top left or center. And your eyes, because we read from left to right over in our end of the world, but obviously over in China, they read from right to left. So if you look at a lot of those websites, the logo's in the top right, because it's the eye is genuinely flowing from the different area. So there's a lot of stuff that we've built up as humans and evolution over the years that implement into that, mixed with standard practice that has come since the days of the first WYSIWYG editors or content management systems and things like that.
Back in the day, it was so flat and boring, and there was no flow, I think, was the biggest thing that was missing. Yeah. And it's really interesting you pointing out the basics that we see in front of us, that yes, the logo is top left or center, and then your menu is going to be over to the right or it's going to be across the middle. You sort of know where it's going to be. Yeah. But because of that, then you're not tripping anyone up. If someone has to look for something, you've almost lost them, haven't you? That's the point. It needs to be really clear, really front and center, and just, there it is, bang. And I see in the photography industry a lot, especially in the wedding photography industry, where people hide prices. And they'll have a pricing tab, but then there'll be no pricing on there. And I'm like, the first thing I'm going to do as a bride is exit that website, because be honest about it. Even if you want to put a price range, I've just got a range on mine because every single wedding's different. But you've got to give people what they want. Otherwise, you've lost them. And you're fighting a losing battle.
That's it. Yeah, it's got to be simple. They've got to go there, find what they want, get in touch, and and that's described in its simplest term. And then obviously that's the tip of the iceberg, and everything else lies under that essentially. Yeah,
definitely. But I think from a design point of view as well, going back to the websites and the layouts and things, if you can put a bit of a flow and put a bit of a journey through not only the page but the pages of the site as well, then you get a coherent experience, don't you? And it's following all the classic design things that you have to follow, but it's trying to make it interesting and put a bit of a journey and keep people's eyes moving, I guess, and keep them active on your site, because otherwise, as soon as they stall, you've lost them.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. So, some clients we have got copious amounts of information that they want to get across about a particular product. So, you've got to just really show a little bit of a summary to that. So it might be just, for example, an image of a product, a little bit of text, and read more. You'll see the read more button across many websites, because otherwise you'd be having an essay forced in your face all the time. So if you wanted to read that little initial description, there it is. Or if you do want to go into the full details, you can delve in. And that's that user journey. And once they've delved into that full information, then you've got to end with that call to action. So no matter where you are, call to action, get in touch, buy this product, get more information. The flow of the user journey is all about calls to action throughout until the end point, which matches their goal with your goal.
That is so key. So it is that whole thing of, the company and the person have got to be in sync and together, both get what they want out of the situation, and then you've got a chance of doing business.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it is about establishing trust. As you know yourself, doing photography for websites, the one thing we say to a lot of people is use your own photography, use your own imagery, because we've naturally now built up a massive distrust with the internet because of the scammers, the spammers. You go on there, you don't know, you look at a website, and if it's got that standard stock imagery of a girl smiling in a headset with a bright white teeth and blurry background, you don't know, is this a guy in his shed acting big? Is it a company in China? Is it who is this? I can't. But once you use your own photography, use your own video, they can see your office, they can see your brand in the background, they can see your people. Again, subliminally, that trust barrier has gone instantly. I can see a human being. I trust this company, and it helps with that flow. I can speak to these. You look at another website, you don't see any of that. It's just dark. It's that disassociation with the brand.
Now, I've got to jump in here and tell you a little bit about how we at Emotify can help you make that real connection with your customers. Building that personal brand or that business brand is what we specialize in. is unlocking the characters, the qualities, the values, the whole meaning behind a business, and essentially what you do for your clients, and conveying that in photography and videography in a short, sharp, snappy way that will help you stand out against the competition. Now, if you want to take the next step with your business and improve the personal connection that you're offering to your potential customers and your existing customers online, give us a call. Head to emotiveye.co.uk and have a look at the services that we offer. From business branding, personal branding, headshots, to creating videos that literally speak directly to your clients, with options including animation, aerial, and everything in between. The list is endless. So I'm going to leave it there. And also have a lot of fun doing it. So head over to emotiveye.co.uk and find out why we will make that one chance counts. You've got one chance to make an impression. Make sure it's the right one. Right. Let's get back to David and let's talk about how the whole world's changing around us through this whole COVID-19 situation.
Yeah. And I think this whole COVID-19 lockdown experience has really expanded on that, because I've been having Zoom meetings with clients of really large companies, and he's sitting there with his kids running around in the background, family, how you doing? You're right, you're safe. And it's brought us, for all the negativity, if you was to pull any little positives out of it, it has brought us close together, and it's almost made everything more real. People are phoning now and they're understanding if you're not available, and I'm speaking to normal guys who they'd be sitting there in a suit in a big boardroom, surrounded by the bright lights. Now, in his living room with the kids running in the background, and I've got that human element forced upon us both, and it's really sort of approached on that.
No, definitely. And I mean, I think it's something I always talk about it when it comes to the personal branding clients as well, where it's showing the variety of different things. Yes, you want to show the polished quality of what someone's paying for, but then show the nitty-gritty stuff as well. Show a bit of humor behind it. Whether it's embracing the latest, social media trends. I mean, TikTok, I haven't even got a clue what it is yet, let alone how to use it. But yeah, embrace something that's a little bit fun and expand and open up what you do to your audience, and you'll appeal to different people. People take in information in different ways, don't they? Some people are visual, as you've already said. Some people are all about the mathematics of it. Some people are readers. So you've got to communicate to everyone and make sure that what you're saying isn't noise, and you're hitting the right people in the right ways.
Yeah, definitely. And a really good book, I don't know if you've ever read it, is The Virus of the Mind by Richard Dawkins.
Okay.
And that's where the term meme came from. Or some people call it meme, but it is meme because it's based on the word gene, and it's something that you actually want to pass on. So, for example, if I was to tell you, oh, that guy that we go to BNI meeting with had a new blue tie, you probably wouldn't retain that or care about it or tell anybody else. But if I was to say to you, oh, this guy's been having an affair with somebody else and then was hit by a car and then, something like that, that's like, that is essentially the fundamental of a meme. It's information that you want to pass on. Yep. Richard Dawkins talks about how that comes from evolution, the reasons we would want to pass that on, and it's based around key topics like fear, survival, food, and that sort of things. So when you are looking at the marketing and things like that, and hitting people, there are those key subject areas that you can tap into, and humour being one of them.
Yeah, definitely.
Where people will want to take that on board and think, oh yeah, that's interesting. I'll share that and I'll pass that.
Yeah, and it's trying to be sensible within your marketing to try and whoever it is that your USP or your avatar, whoever you're actually really aiming at, you've got to find a way to get into them, and I guess stand out from the noise as well, because hell, there is so much noise. Yeah. And I mean, if you sit there on social media, you just drown in stuff, and
yeah.
You've got to be sensible, haven't you? And really try and marketing is tough to try and get out there and get in front of the right people now. I think it's harder than ever. So that you've got to be sensible and be creative, I guess.
That's right. And it is finding that balance again. You don't want to go too, much like the push notifications, you don't want to go too much down the one way. You don't want to go absolutely crazy because you'll get slated or laughed at as a brand for going too crazy. It's finding that balance. And, it's no longer are the days, obviously the one subject historically that always sold was sex. And no longer will Ford stick a beautiful girl on a car, on a billboard to get them to look at it, because the world's changed. And that did work because that was one of those key evolutionary things that your mind would automatically pick up, and it is now finding that balance. If there was to do that nowadays, I'm pretty sure they'd probably get slandered.
Yeah, no, totally, mate. I mean, talking about things evolving, how much of an impact has it had in the design of the digital marketing world? This whole shift to now we are mobile first.
The biggest shift has been sort of through fluid design, essentially,
right?
Which is designed just for mobile, so it'll move to different devices. When I was at university, I graduated university in 2004. It was old mobile technology. What was it called now? It was called.
Was it WAP
or something? Yeah, that was it. WAP.
WAP.
Yeah. It was WAP something. So we were developing in that, and in those days you'd have a website, and then you'd have a specific separate website for mobile.
Yep.
And obviously the screen sizes changed. So back then it was an old cathode ray monitor, so we were looking at 800 by 600 width. And only a couple of weeks back, we had somebody come to us with a new website, and their website was still designed in 800 by 600.
Wow.
And now, like, almost when I look at a width of a website now, I can tell them what era that they had it made.
Yeah.
Because obviously the expansion over time. Then they jumped up to the 1024 by 768 resolution. Yeah. And now, within the past 5 years plus thereabouts, we've moved into the fluid design, the whole design that's going to change based on your screen size. So you're keeping the same content, and it just jumps around, moves around, stretches, and expands. So it's kind of future-proof in the respect that it'll always move towards content.
Yeah,
but it has changed.
It's trying to be smart as well, isn't it? Then, so it's got to look as great and have the same experience on a phone or a 4K monitor. And that's where the great design comes in.
It is re-embracing the scroll. I mean, it went through a whole page of time where people just, I want everything on one screen. Everything's got to be able to fold, or everything's just on that single screen. And now with mobile, if you move it around, it's kind of step backwards and embracing the fact people are going to scroll. And it's adding animations to the scroll. So when it's moved down, images might be sliding in, or you've got a bit of motion in there, or then that button's coming up to get them in touch, again, ending on that call to action. And understand that people are going to scroll down. But again, not forcing too much. Everybody wants everything on the homepage. Every client, I want this on the homepage. I want this on the homepage. And again, it's finding that balance.
I always think you always want to show some of your best bits and then just give a hint of what else there is, but then let people quickly, if they want to go into that. So say they come down to the Meet the Team page, straight away they can go in and find out about that if they want to on a separate page, but not everyone's going to care at that point. So don't flood the page. Let it be there. But yeah, it's quite interesting you saying that about the scrolling, because with me being everything visual, putting blogs together and putting pages together to show galleries, I've evolved so many different ways of doing it over the years. Yes, initially it was scroll, then it all went into one box where it was automatic and they could slide through it nicely, because when touch became the big thing, it was get it a nice sliding action. And then you suddenly realise nobody does that anymore. Everyone wants to just flick because they're used to it on social media. So you've got to move with the times, haven't you? That's the point.
That's it. Yeah. Again, it's still finding its way, and there'll be new human-computer interaction ways of coming in the future. I mean, already with the headsets and the virtual reality, and they've tested augmented reality contact lenses on, and that have worked where they you can see information directly in front of your eyes. So. And we had a little device a while back that stuck on top of your head, and it detected your brain cells, and you could control things with your mind. So we could change the colours of backgrounds, or we could move things by thinking.
Wow.
So we were playing and testing with that a while ago. So, it's by no means at the end. This is, there's going to be new ways finding, and that's what I love, playing with, trialing new ways. But at the same time, not getting some people aren't used to it. We've only really voice has been around for ages, voice control, things like Alexa, but we've only really just started to embrace it because it wasn't natural. And it's got to become natural before somebody starts using it. You can't just force it on somebody straight away. And quality's got to be there as well, hasn't it? I mean, the voice activations and stuff. I remember putting it in a Bluetooth kit in my car like 10 years ago, and it was crap. It used to never call whoever you wanted or anything, but now Alexa, whatever else, Google Voice, they are all pretty good. As long as you speak clearly, it is going to get what you mean it to do, sort of thing. Yeah. But that's only just got there. But coming back to another thing that we've said, we've been on more Zoom calls than ever recently, with this whole lockdown situation. Yeah. And 2-3 months ago, trying to get someone on a video call was a nightmare
because they were like, oh no, I don't do video. But now everyone's had to embrace it, and you suddenly get this face-to-face connection wherever you are in the world, essentially. If you've got a screen and camera in front of you, then you can connect with someone. And I think there's going to be a lot more of companies embracing that within their day-to-day business as well. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, my only worry, problem is that it's a shame we're not a bit further down the line with, the whole holographic style Star Wars standing up in front of you. I think that would have been nice at this time, wouldn't it? But I mean,
for you, that'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? I mean, you're already embracing it like crazy with your green screen. So it's, but as you say, if you could then literally pop up a product and physically show them, and it could be out in front of them and they could touch it and feel it. Thinking about how amazing that will be when we get there, that's something else, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, certainly. I mean, Sony have got the patent for haptic gloves. They're bringing out their new PS5 this year. And there's a rumour that there's going to be some haptic things on the controller. Right. So, for example, if you're pulling back an arrow when shooting the game, you'll feel the tension of the arrow. But they've got the patent for haptic gloves, and the possibilities of that are brilliant. If you used to get sort of force feedback when you're visually seeing something in virtual reality, as if you're picking it up, as if you're feeling it.
So then it feels real.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it makes the mind make it real. And it's that whole thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And the human computer action, I mean, the whole world, essentially, we are a projection of light. The universe is a hologram. And now we've learnt to harness that technology. The possibilities, it could be endless, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are probably going science fiction realm, aren't we, really? But science fiction, there's so much of it that, a lot of it can be crazy. But if you look back in the years and then what we've now achieved and surpassed, the opportunities in the future are just almost endless, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. And that whole computer interaction with humans, again, comes back to that wearable tech, embeddable tech, things that the people are already having like microchips put into their skin so they can pay or scan and do things on there. So and that, again, it's going to find its own path. I think it was Einstein again that says like technology is like an axe in the hands of a pathological killer. We're going to axe our way through it until we find the norm, essentially, and
find what's acceptable, I guess.
Yeah, the internet's still very young, still in its infancy. There's so much more to come out of it.
Which is kind of scary when you see how much is actually there already. But that's why you've got to really control what you put out there and control how you make it work for you as a business as well, haven't you? Because otherwise, it's just noise. And as pretty as a website looks, if it's not getting you business, it doesn't matter, does it? That's the point.
That's it, yeah. And my whole career evolves around something that has only existed within my own lifetime.
Yeah.
And that's, it's not many times in the past has that been a thing, really? And that's how fast it's come on.
That's pretty amazing, isn't it, really? So, I mean, for a client coming into you, as a digital marketing agency, what is the solutions that you guys can provide? I mean, I know obviously design and apps we've already mentioned a bit, but is it literally the whole shebang that you can do absolutely anything for them?
Yeah, start to finish, really. I mean, the core services are websites, mobile apps, digital marketing, which encompasses a number of subcategories.
Okay.
And then your hosting and support. And essentially, we'll start from either, hey, I haven't got a website at all, or we've got a website, we need the current one fixing, or we've got a website, we hate it, we want it starting again. And exactly the same process with apps. I mean, the main thing that makes us different, really, and unique is we've got our own dedicated search engine optimization team. Okay. So people go and get a website made, and then I always say it's like having an awesome billboard made and then hide it around the back of your office. SEO, then they'll go to an SEO agency separately for getting found on Google. Whereas we think about that from the start, encompass it from the start, and do a follow-up after a month. We'll come back and say, well, this is where you are now, this is what can be done, and think about that as part of the process rather than as a separate chunk of it, essentially. And again, the whole human-computer interaction side of things, the process, the flow, getting, once you've got the SEO as well, that's sort of getting the fish in the pond. You need the net to get them out, and that's where you're looking at the human-computer interaction. Human-computer interaction really is the call to action is your net.
Yeah, and it's utilising that call to action and finding out what works for you, isn't it? And I guess that's where, I've done it myself in the past where, there's sites where you can record what your visitors are doing on your website, and you can find out what's broken as well. And what's not technically broken, but as far as the visitor, it is broken. I remember it was about 7-8 years ago. Got this great website I designed. It was brilliant. Galleries on the homepage. If you clicked on them, it went off into a new thing. It was wicked. Everyone was scrolling past it, just thinking it was images, and I was like, oh man, that's why I'm getting it wasn't leading anywhere. And sometimes you need to know what's broken, don't you? You need to know what's not happening for your business in order to get in there and fix it.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, there are complete sort of testing things you can use like that you've said, and that there's even testing areas where it'll use the webcam and you can get some test subjects and it'll watch their eyes. Mm-hmm. So it'll do an eye trackment across the website as well, and hot areas, hot spots of where they're actually looking, as opposed to, and often people will naturally, I mean, you might notice this yourself, is when you're looking at stuff, you kind of tend to hover your mouse over it where you're looking.
Yep. It's almost like it needs to be. I'm doing it now. I've got my mouse on your nose, sort of thing, and it's like
that's it. Yeah, like I'm pointing at what I'm looking at. So there are the online ones where, like you said, that you can record and almost get an idea. But then there's the ones as well which will use people's actual eye tracking to follow where they're using, and that's where it gets really interesting.
No, definitely, mate.
Then, I mean, for a lot of SMEs, you don't really need to go that far, because you can kind of work on the basis of the testing that's already been available and the standards that are already in place, like things we've already mentioned, having your logos at the top left or your menus at the top and not hidden away down the right hand corner somewhere. They're not, the standards there you can work on the back of. Yeah, no, totally. And I guess the other side from it does tie into design, but it really comes into its own when it comes with search engine optimization, is making sure that everything is optimized and working properly as well, isn't it? Because if you've got a delay on something, if something's not loading correctly, it's going to kill you. And Google's going to kill you for one thing, and just absolutely destroy your rankings. But it affects how people react to you as well, isn't it? Oh yeah. Speed again is the one thing Google will look at definitely to determine where they're going to rank you. Or I always call it topping up your Google juice. It's one of their algorithms, and all these little things add up to, every little drip of Google juice adds up to the big thing, and the speed is one of those things. But again, it goes on the human side of it. It goes back to that attention span of a 10-year-old. If I've got to sit around and wait, so I'm bored, I'll move on to the next one, see if the next site's faster. Yeah, totally. And I guess you can see that with kids now, with the likes of YouTube, with ads on absolutely everything. How they get frustrated with that. I mean, I've seen literally 2-3-year-olds throw an iPad across the room because the adverts have come up and interrupted Peppa Pig. And it's just like, that's going to happen with people. And that happens with everyone. We all get sick of it. So it's understanding how to get around that as well, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, that cost me $4.99 on a Sonic game yesterday, because my lad was playing Sonic and the ads kept coming, and I got sick of him moaning. It's like, it's going to be worth $5 to stop him moaning about these adverts. Maybe that's the tactic that they're putting in there. It's to irritate the kids like crazy, so they irritate the parents, and then they just buy it. That's sweet marketing there. Yeah, that's it. And it depends on your kind of business. If you are one of those throwaway businesses, sell things cheap, sell it quick, move on, then that works for you. If you want to establish a brand, somebody like Apple or, a bigger company like Nike, if you want to establish a proper brand, then that's not the way to go, because you are going to seriously annoy your followers. You want to build up that cult. They've got a cult following behind them, and they want to establish that as almost a club. And so it's the kind of business you are, really, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. And your business breaks down to its values and the message behind it, but you've got to make sure you carry that through absolutely everything you do. Every single time a client can have an experience with you, you've got to make sure it's the quality of what you want the whole thing to be. So it's no good having a really fancy van that you go and turn up to work in if your website was built 5 years ago and performs terribly. If when they go on social media, it's just an intern that's done it and there's no proper communication. You've got to make sure the whole brand is an experience. Yeah, and that's something we've had to learn as a business as well. I mean, when we first started, I was a web designer and then not a businessman really, and I started as a web designer, and I'd create a website. Well, there you go, there's your website done. Mm-hmm. On to the next one. Yep. And then I realised that you kind of just brushing them off. Then not staying in touch. So that's why we've scheduled into our whole process is the follow up. So we'll follow up after a month and say, well, this is what's happened. This is where people are clicking. You might want to write a blog post on this. And then after another 6 months, some advice, just to keep. So it really is, one, it's providing a great service, but two, it's keeping you front of mind for your clients as well, isn't it? It's keep those touch points there so that they don't think about anyone else when they think about web. They think InLife, and that's it. They're going to come back to you because they know they're going to get looked after. That's it. Yeah, and a while back, when we, I'm not afraid to admit this, we was like a production line. It was in, out, and that was something when I took a step back and looked at business, that I realised that we were doing wrong.
Yeah, no, totally. Where now you walk into your office and you're absolutely. I'm always shocked when I walk in because you're not just a couple of guys sitting behind a computer. You've got a team of specialists doing specialist roles, and that's, I think, the strength. And as you say, with having your whole SEO department as well, you're giving quality service throughout. And that's one of the things I love about you guys as a company. Plus, you're all a bit nuts as well, which is it's got to be a good thing.
Yeah. I think it was Captain Jack Sparrow said it would have to be, else it'd never work.
Yeah, totally, mate. But it's finding what's right for you, isn't it? It's finding where you sit and where you exist as a brand and as a company, to understand how you can best serve your customers, really.
That's it. And I mean, I like to work on the guy's strengths. When the team are working on something, I'll say, "Did you enjoy that? What is there any kind of project you'd like to work on?" So, I mean, Craig at the moment, he's working on a mobile app, and it's like, an interesting project and something he's going to enjoy working on. And the guys who do the SEO, I love it. They'll come to me and say, "Look what, just out of the blue. Oh, look at this. This, they were there. Look where we've got them to," and they'll just come and show off to me, and I love it. It's great just because they're enjoying what they're doing. And they're proud of it.
And then you can be completely proud of them and completely support them and know that, you're all having fun with it as well. And if you're having fun at work, then you produce much better work, don't you? It's you get better results. That's
it. Yeah, they say if you enjoy your job, you never work a day in your life.
Yeah, no, totally, mate, totally. And I think we're both lucky enough to do what we love as a job. That's certainly part of the fun of keep doing it year after year.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. Like I say, the first home computer came out in 1981 when I was born. Google came out in 98 when I graduated. And before that I was playing with like Yahoo and Alta Vista, and so I've kind of watched the whole internet evolve, really. I mean, I graduated university in 2004, which is when Facebook was founded. I started off and created the UK's first and biggest modified car club, and that was before Twitter or YouTube was even around. But then that's evolved. That was an online forum and everybody was using it. But then when social media hit the hype, I sold that then because I knew social media and page and things were going to be taking over, and it has now. And you've got the group pages now on Facebook that have evolved from the old days of people living on the forums. Yeah, it is really interesting. I guess something there, I wasn't going to go down this tangent, but you've sort of led me on it. Customer experience and interaction with search. So I remember the one that you didn't mention there, Ask Jeeves, where it was a totally different service, where you were asking it a question rather than putting in almost like a mathematical equation of this word plus this word minus this one that you had to do to get the results out of Google or Yahoo. But Google's now gone that way, hasn't it? They want a conversation. It is very much a human thing. Google wants you to speak to it like a human and give you proper human responses. They are very much working on their algorithms all the time, and and that's what the guys do. Our SEO guys will track their algorithms, what's changing, and they almost see a flutter in the system, so they can see so they're doing something. Like it was a few months back. Chris said to me, he said something going on in Google, something's happening. Someone's changing it, and then within a few days they launched this new algorithm and it changed everything. So you can see when they're testing and doing things, and it is all about making it easier for the person to type in and find what they want, essentially. And that is that human computer interaction side of it, is getting exactly one. And the one thing Google has been testing as well is quantum computing, which is really interesting. Okay. So obviously normal computers works on ones and zeros. But in the quantum realm, like the Schrodinger's cat, it's both dead and alive at the same time. So it could be 1 and 0, or 1 and 1, or 1 or 0. So you get a whole extra expansion of computing knowledge. If you think of the computer from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, that side of things. Okay, so, and how that's going to change computer interaction. I mean, it's already been tested and worked in certain realms. It's done massive calculations that would have taken thousands of years, and it's managed to do them. But when you think of the human-computer interaction of that, the intelligence of just looking at you and probably even knowing what you're already looking for. Do you know what I mean? If you think of it on that level, it was like that whole scandal that went down online where people were tracking what people were doing on Facebook. I can't remember what were they called now. I can't remember
Cambridge Analytica.
That's it, Cambridge Analytica. Yeah, where they were tracking, people who had recently had deaths in the family, or people and what they were feeling, and then utilizing that to get them to act in a certain way or vote in a certain way. There's a really good documentary on Netflix all about that. And imagine that to the next level. Essentially, it could pick up your entire history of social media, everything you've ever done online, recreate your personality. So after you're gone, you are there and live on as a holograph.
Yeah. So I was
Red Dwarf
Red Dwarf going on. So we've got Hitchhiker's Guide. We've got definitely we've got the Matrix going on with the Google code, and so it's science fiction's coming to life, definitely.
Yeah. So that human computer action, like I say, is by no means finished.
But it's important that what's current and what is in front of us now, that we're on top of it as businesses, so that we are the ones that stand out against our competitors, essentially.
That's it, yeah, and being prepared for the next thing around the corner as well.
I love that, being prepared, being ahead of it, and literally able to hit on it straight away.
Yeah, definitely, that's the one.
Nice one, mate. Well, we could carry on forever. I mean, I've just thought of a whole nother topic that we could go down, so we'll save that for another episode. But for anyone who's looking at improving, or even the other thing that you guys do is taking an honest look at someone's online presence and letting them know if something needs fixing. How are they best to find out about what you guys at InLife do?
Yeah, if you just go to inlife.co.uk, on there you'll see we offer a free website audit. And we look through your website. We run an automated bit of code that goes through and tells you what might be holding you back on the search engines. And we do a visual, as I mentioned, human-computer action style look over it as well, and give you a recommendation on what you can do to get those fish out the pond, essentially. And whether you come to us to do that, we'll quote. We don't initially, it's not sort of hold you down to using us.
Yep.
If you want to go back and give that to your current agency and get them to do it, we just want to make the internet a better place, essentially. So.
I love that, mate. And I know looking through the website, you can see real good examples of the variety of your work as well, and the fact that you can work with anyone from a one-man band to a zoo that all the families in the Midlands know about to some massive company that is literally national. There's so many different things that you can do as a company, with all the different services you provide. So you're definitely not out of the realms for anyone.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Not a problem at all, mate. Well, Dave, thanks for coming on, mate. We could carry on forever on this. And I'll say I've already got the next topic lined up. So we will queue that one up in the diary soon, mate. And hopefully some of the little bits that we've chatted through gives people some ideas on how they can improve their customers' experience online.
Brilliant. No, thanks a lot, Stuart. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers, matey. Thanks very much. Wow, what an episode. And really, with Dave, could have gone through that forever. There's so many different topics that we could have covered. Again, mate, thanks for coming on the show. And hopefully it gives you an idea of some of the things that you can look at and try and implement when you're thinking about your own online presence as a company and how you can stand out against the marketplace. After all, standing out is exactly what it's about. Getting that interaction, getting that reaction that you want from your customers, giving them a really good experience so that you become their go-to. Whether it's apps, whether it's website, whatever it is, make sure that every interaction you have is the right one. See you soon on the Personal Connection podcast. This has been brought to you by Emotive Eye. You've got one chance to connect.